Shalom. Before I get started, we give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, bahasham, Qadash. This is the brother Bakala Walam here with another hopeful edifying lesson to the elect body of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi. I got two little short clips. I don't know how long this lesson is going to be. I'm not anticipating a long one. But this first one says global, more or less global famine. There will be a global famine, right?
So there are
The name of this one says there will be a global famine, and this guy right here, I don't know what he is, more or less. He's supposed to be some type of expert um, pertaining to, or some type of expert analysis pertaining to the war in Iran. He's going to give out 5 scenarios of how this war may play out with, Babylon the Great, America, dealings with it. So I'm going to just go ahead and play it, right?
5 scenarios in which the war could end because Trump is stupid enough to take on what Israel wanted to do, which was destroy Iran, but they're bitten off far more than they can chew. So scenario 1 is Iran destroys the Gulf power infrastructure. I think that's highly likely. And if that happens, then Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, they all become uninhabitable. And then scenario 2, Iran disables Israel's nukes. I hope that happens, but there's this one. And it scares the shit out of me. Steve, I have so many questions. What is going on? So this war is threatening everybody on the planet. And what Trump is doing at the moment is a pump and dump scheme. He's trying to drive up the oil price and exploiting it for his friends and for his own wealth in the process. So people are focusing upon the price of this. But the really important point is this Strait of Hormuz. So oil, fertilizer, helium all have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran have blocked that gap. So they can say you do or do not pass depending on what your country's attitude towards our country. So that's quite terrifying because 20 to 30% of our fertilizer comes through this point. But if this is not available, the globe has a famine. Do you think he will send ground troops in? Yes, I do.
So basically, he was saying that, which, it's not the point of the lesson, but he said it's going to be possibility of a global famine, right? So the Lord said he's going to bring plagues, and one of the plagues that he was going to bring is famine. So a famine is coming. A famine was happened in Egypt before, during Joseph time, right? And there's going to be a famine also again, right? So he says this may bring about a global famine, which is a plague. And also he says that they're going to bring ground troops. Will he bring ground troops in? Which basically this is the point of the lesson, right? The ground troops comment, right, is the point of this lesson.
20 to 30% of our fertilizer comes through this point. But if this is not available, the globe has a famine. Do you think he will send ground troops in? Yes, I do. But I'd hate to be one of those troops because it's a suicide mission. They've got underground.
So he said he hate to be one of the troops because it's a suicide mission, right? Which is the theme of this lesson, right? The theme of this lesson is it's a suicide mission to bring these ground troops into Iran.
If this is not available, the globe has a famine. Do you think he will send ground troops in? Yes, I do. But I'd hate to be one of those troops because it's a suicide mission. They've got underground military units of weapons and troops, but we have no idea of the scale. Trump keeps saying that the war has been won. Yeah. What's going on there in your view? I think he's been fed propaganda to tell him that he's winning the war by his immediate advisors because you cannot tell a person like that they've made a mistake. We'll talk about that as well, but you've developed a bit of a reputation because you're very good at predicting things. So which of these 5 outcomes do you think is most probable to happen? Oh, God.
So basically, like I said, the theme of this lesson is them sending ground troops in, and he said, this guy was saying, it's a suicide mission. Now,
A single thing.
this guy here, Headseth,
A single thing we've done
says, not a single thing we have done
has put an American troop in more of a harm's way.
have put an American troops in more of a harm's way, right? Says soldier comes forward soldier comes forward, contradicts Hedseth, right?
Now to a CBS News exclusive with a soldier who survived the deadliest Iranian attack on Americans since the war began. It happened at a command post in Kuwait on the very first day of the war. 6 people died at that time, and that soldier spoke to our own Jonah Kaplan. He says that Army leadership knew the attack was possible, but failed to prepare for it. For me, I think telling the truth is important. His unit's leadership ordered them to move to the post ahead of the war, and he says they did that despite intelligence showing it was on a list of potential Iranian drone targets. Were these deaths preventable? In my opinion, absolutely yes. What fortifications existed there? I mean, I would put it in the none category from a drone defense capability. None. There were no fortifications. None. A single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way. Now to a CBS News exclusive with a soldier who survived the deadliest Iranian attack on Americans since the war began. It happened at a command post in Kuwait on the very first day of the war. 6 people died at that time, and that soldier spoke to our own Jonah Kaplan. He says that Army leadership knew the attack was possible, but failed to prepare for it. For me, I think telling the truth is important. His unit's leadership ordered them to move to the post ahead of the war, and he says they did that despite intelligence showing it was on a list of potential Iranian drone targets.
So it says their leadership told them to go there, despite them knowing, having intelligence that this was an area that was on Iranian drone strike as a drone strike target. But nonetheless, they told these troops to go there, and they had intel that this area in Kuwait was a target for drone strikes by Iran, and 6 people was killed. That's what they said, you know. So what that tell you, man? Like they really don't care about you. You know that should be a idea. Like these, they don't care about you really. That's more or less the elites. You know, it's a game to them. All wars are bankers' wars. You know, and you're nothing but a number. You know, more or less nothing to these elites. You're fighting, um, basically for no reason, being sacrificed, being served basically as a sacrifice in these wars. You know, a demonic sacrifice, right? So basically, like, you know, that was the theme. The first video, the guy said, sending ground troops to Iran is basically a suicide mission. And here you had intelligence from the leadership that they knew that this area in Kuwait was a target for drone strikes by Iran, but nonetheless, they sent them there, and 6 people was killed, and they was bombed, and the guy said there was no basically drone defense in the area.
Are these deaths preventable? In my opinion, absolutely yes.
And he said they should have been preventable. And so that's the Middle East. So basically that's what this lesson is about, right? So that's basically what's going to happen to these troops in the third woe, right? This is Isaiah 30, the book of Isaiah, chapter 34 and 1. It says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord Yahawah is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to the slaughter." Right. So these like he said, like the first video, this guy, he's supposed to be some expert in predicting things or whatever. These mice have insight. They tell each other, what's going on, plans. These more or less it come from the elites. And he says sending troops, ground troops to Iran, basically a suicide mission. Right? And that's basically what's going to happen to these troops over there. Verse 3, it says, "Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall melt with their blood," right? "And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled up as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as and as a fallen fig from the fig tree, right? So it's talking about, there's describing the nuclear missiles, the nuclear distraction, the nuclear destruction in that mushroom cloud, right? You're going to be dissolved. The heavens shall roll up. The heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, right? So these nuclear missiles are going to dissolve everything in its path, and he's going to leave behind that mushroom cloud that looked like a scroll, right? All the host shall fall down as the leaf falleth from the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment, right? Idumea is a Greek way of saying Edom, these Edomites, right? Verse 6 said, the sword of the Lord Yahawah is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord Yahawah have a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea, right? America, right? And the unicorns. So basically, America is code for, is basically the modern day Basra, the headquarters, or the head, or the capital of Edom is Basra, and the capital of Edom today is America. So these American troops was going to get slaughtered, man. And basically, these videos is showing basically an example of that, right? Like the guy said in the first video, he said that sending troops, ground troops to Iran is basically a suicide mission. And then you got your intelligence, they knowing information, but they putting their troops in harm's way. So like basically, like, you're setting your people up to be slaughtered, just as it says in Isaiah verse 2, Isaiah 34, so like here, Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 2, right? Which I'm going to read. It says, for the indignation of the Lord Yahawah is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to the slaughter. So basically, that's what it appears, is that even your intelligence is handing over their troops to be slaughtered, right? So I'm gonna play this video, and that should be it. All these troops that's going to get sent over there, drafted over there, you're not coming back, man. You're going to be slaughtered over there in the Middle East, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Also over here in Babylon the Great, it's going to be a great slaughter over here too. But you military troops, you're going to be slaughtered over there, man. We've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way. Now to a CBS News exclusive with a soldier who survived the deadly... A single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way. Now to a CBS News exclusive with a soldier who survived the deadliest Iranian attack on Americans since the war began. It happened at a command post in Kuwait on the very first day of the war. 6 people died at that time, and that soldier spoke to our own Jonah Kaplan. He says that Army leadership knew the attack was possible, but failed to prepare for it. For me, I think telling the truth is important. And what he said there, he said, for me, telling the truth is important. And that's in the age of deceit and lies, telling the truth, you become an enemy. You become a target by telling the truth. And he said, telling the truth is important, right? That's but in the age of lies and deceit, being truthful makes you out to be an enemy. A single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way.
Now to a CBS News exclusive with a soldier who survived the deadliest Iranian attack on Americans since the war began. It happened at a command post in Kuwait on the very first day of the war. 6 people died at that time, and that soldier spoke to our own Jonah Kaplan. He says that Army leadership knew the attack was possible, but failed to prepare for it.
For me, I think telling the truth is important.
His unit's leadership ordered them to move to the post ahead of the war, and he says they did that despite intelligence showing it was on a list of potential Iranian drone targets. Were these deaths preventable?
In my opinion, absolutely yes.
What fortifications existed there?
I mean, I would put it in the none category from a drone defense capability.
None. There were no fortifications.
None.
A single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way.
So yeah, that's it. You know, they had intelligence that this was a target for drone strikes. They didn't have any drone defense systems or anything like to prevent drone strikes. They knew of it. They knew this was a potential drone strike, but they allowed their troops to send there to get slaughtered. So basically, that's what's going to happen, right? So I'm gonna end the lesson, right? I'm gonna call an end to this lesson, you know, because it's not gonna be. You know, the point was made. These troops, you're gonna be slaughtered in the third war, which is World War III. You know, you're not coming back. You get drafted, and that's basically what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a great slaughter. So I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, bahasham, Rawchaa Qadash. Shalom to the next time, Yahawah, which means Lord willing, and why abide above.